I got an interesting call a couple of days ago from an offer owner that I privately consult. There's around 6 figures a month. He called me saying that his sales team was complaining, which is a big surprise, saying that every single lead on their calendar was broke, they were cold, they were trash leads, everyone's canceling, they're unqualified, they're no-showing, everything you can hear in the book. So big surprise. But I want to share with you guys the conversation I had with him that finally fixed and plugged this leak in the business, and also gave him a lot more clarity on what he was dealing with in a numbers perspective and also just from a leadership perspective. All right, so today we're going to talk about how to finally fix this broke, cold, trash lead epidemic and start collecting pay-in-fulls daily. And so, no big surprise, a week later after our conversation, we plugged in a couple of things, fixed a couple of things in the pre-call, and now he collects over 50% of his ticket price on every close and gets more closes in general. And so just to show you proof that no matter where you are, whether you're a small organic brand or you're running paid, this is another screenshot from one of our clients just in June. This was last month. 52K cash collected. By the way, this client was at 20K when we started working together, or right below 20K. So we doubled the business. He has 52K cash collected and 85K in revenue generated, which again is over 50% of what their ticket price is, average order value. We get $770 per cash per call, whether they close or not, in general. That's a stat, right? So most info products, most coaching programs have more of like 100K revenue generated, 30K cash collected, right? So fixing this one problem not only makes you more money month over month, but it also gets you way more quality students than the ones you're dealing with right now. And again, your sales team won't be complaining about broke, cold, trash leads, which we'll get into it. All right. So if you don't know who I am, my name's Andres. I collected a little over $500,000 cash for our clients with an intentionally very small portfolio. And again, I don't count consulting in that number. But these videos are not to be super high up in the air, very overcomplicated, so you feel like to buy my 5K thing. These videos are going to be super, super simple. Talk about only 3 sales machines that I believe are the only thing that matter in your business to make you money. Lead to book, book to show, and show to close. And every single one of these YouTube videos is focused on one subsystem within each of these bigger machines. I call them engines that matter for your business. So again, there should be playlists on the channel that you can like binge depending on what your bottleneck is within each of these sales machines. But today in general, we're going to talk about lead to book, right? How to get pay-in-fulls daily instead of the broke, cold, trash leads you're kind of experiencing right now, or at least your sales team's letting you know that you have. Okay, so to get into it, key distinctions. Very first off, disclaimer here, your sales team in general, or most likely, just doesn't have the right diction to communicate to you effectively about what's happening on their calendar. It's not their fault. It's that no one's really taught sales guys this. And so it's very important for you as a leader to understand this, whether you're an offer owner or you're an operator. Okay. So when I hear things like people are canceling and unqualified, they're no-showing, people usually group those all in a bucket and they say bad lead quality, right? That is the most dangerous way to think. And it's what separates the $1 million a month offer owners to the guys that are doing 20, 30K and stuck there. All right. It's because each of those have their own set of symptoms, roots, solutions, and leaks and like plugs to fix those because they all have different roots and causes. Now, let's go into that a little bit more. Canceled, no-show, DQ'd. What are the differences? How can you tell which one's which? And then how do you know how to fix each one? Okay, so canceled, for example, has a much different solution than no-show because they have different roots. Canceled means that, one, I would ask the question actually, is the closer canceling or is the lead canceling? If the lead's canceling, what percentage of those people are rescheduling? If the closer's canceling, what criteria, what SOP does he have to cancel those leads? Is it in his SOP or is he acting on his own will? So all these stats no one ever has when I ask these questions, which is important for you to go start collecting these and collecting data, right? Big thesis here. If I had a spreadsheet of your entire business, of the KPIs and the throughput for each stage of a customer journey, you probably make a lot more money. And one, you probably wouldn't need to pay for anyone to consult you. All right. So first of all, canceled. I will say most times you have a cancel problem, it's because people are finding out stuff about you or your offer online that they don't like. Meaning they look on YouTube and they don't see a good review. They go on Google and they see that little brief message that pops up and has something negative. Maybe it's something not even to do with your offer. Maybe it's a competitor company, or maybe it's like a completely different company that's named as the same as the info product, and you're losing sales to that because they're confused, right? Or maybe it's a TikTok. They look on TikTok for reviews of the actual offer. So that's a big reason I see for cancellations. Why some of the big guys have a lot more control. They have Google alerts set up, so whenever their name is mentioned online, they get alerted. All these things. I don't think that's the case if you're like below 50K a month. At least, probably if you're below $250,000 a month, this doesn't apply to you. But That being said, it's worth mentioning because it's worth mentioning that this is a completely different solution compared to no-show and DQ like we're going to talk about here in a second. So cancellations, get clear. Are they rescheduling? Is it because your availability is like effed up? Is it because your closer is canceling without your permission? It doesn't have the SOP. So again, get really clear. My whole point with this is that it's actually a different cause than what you're lumping them in together to be. Okay, so no-show. So what sparks a no-show, right? It could be the pre-call iteration. You need to make iterations to the copy in your pre-call between your closers and your setters, right? Maybe it's an FAQ build out. Maybe there's frequently commonly asked questions that prevent people from showing up to that call with excitement and with makes that call feel less shiny and less worth it to them, right? So do we need to build an FAQ section within the post-booking page, right? Is there blue messages the problem? Are our messages, once we're confirming these calls, are they not being opened? Do you track that in your CRM? So all these little things, right, that we can track and like really nail down these problems. My whole point with this is if you're going to talk about canceled, unqualified no-shows, you better be able to understand that all those are different things. So you need to track like where they're coming from. And once we know where they're coming from, we can see what's the breakdown of that look like. DQ'd means that a lead is disqualified. I'd check what the criteria is on what a disqualified lead is. Most companies I work with do not have an idea what is a qualified and disqualified lead. Only that line is to draw. So closers get confused, setters get confused, and the communication just breaks. Okay. So that's usually a marketing problem if you're not getting good leads, but it's rarely ever a DQ problem. I'll be honest with you. If you think you have a DQ problem, you most likely don't. It's probably a no-show. It's probably a cancel problem, or it's probably an uneducated lead problem, which we'll get to in a second. That's what's causing your problems, or that's what's causing your sales team to complain and whine. I was a closer, so I know. All right, so what's the breakdown on this? So what's important about this is not only understanding like which one of these it is, but it's understanding the breakdown. So let's just say for 100% of the leads we're calling trash quality, 40% of them are canceled, 30% of them are no-show, and 30% of them are DQ'd. Okay, so all we need to solve in the business, and again, most offer owners try to tackle everything at a time, and operators do the same thing. If we focus on what's the highest leverage thing to do, we make incredibly quicker progress, right? So if we focus on canceled, because we see canceled has 40% of, let's just call it 100% of the trash leads, 40% of those are really just canceled and they're not getting rescheduled. If we just fix the cancel problem, we've already eliminated 40% of what we already have broke trash leads. So now our broke cold trash problem turned into not that big of a problem because we fixed one bottleneck in the business. But we don't ever get there without knowing these things. All right, so that's first of all. The difference between canceled, unqualified no-shows. Let's understand that each of them have different roots and causes and solutions, and then also get your breakdown really accurately on what you're actually losing sales to. Okay, where's the actual plug? Because without knowing what the leak is, we can't put a plug in to save our life. All right, B, marketing versus sales symptoms. So I talk about this. Most of your no-show and canceled problems is a sales issue. So like cancellations, no-shows fall under this bucket. But if you're getting genuine DQs, that's a marketing problem, right? I talk with some offer owners that like think that sales processes are supposed to like magically make leads have money. Again, it could be an uneducated problem. So like, for example, uneducated leads would be another one to put under the sales kind of process jurisdiction. But if you're getting a lot of leads that come to the end of the call and they're like, hey, I would love to do this, I literally just don't have the money to show you the bank account, right? That's a messaging on the front end problem. So now you could be spending all your time on the sales process. A lot of owners think that it's a sales process problem, so they go and spend a ton of time on the setting process to get more qualified leads, when really it's a marketing front end messaging problem. All right, so if they're DQ'd, and only in this, again, you probably don't have a DQ problem. You probably have any other problem that we just talked about, but if it is a DQ problem, it's a marketing jurisdiction problem, and you need to solve for that. So this is messaging in general. So you need to fix your front-end messaging to attract a higher quality audience that could be going up market, that could be sub-niching down to a higher buying power. I will say really quickly, you could note on that, I've seen guys go to, instead of fitness, Christian fitness coaching. The problem with that is that although you're going to get higher quality students, which if that's your mission, then go for it. I'm not saying that, but being Christian doesn't necessarily give them more buying power, and so it doesn't make you more money, even though you niche down, right? Law of specificity is very, very exponential when you couple it with like going niching down, but also niching down to a high buying power individual, as opposed to helping married men or family men get fit. Family men typically have a lot more pockets, or a lot deeper pockets than just Christians, right? So I'm just saying, obviously go with your mission, but like when you want to niche down and you want to fix the front end of the marketing, keep that in mind. So understanding the breakdown of cancel, no-show, DQ'd, where is it coming from, and then also understanding what the highest lever to pull is by getting the breakdown on that. Then B, understanding, is it a marketing or is it a sales problem? That way you know what department to focus on, and they're not fighting, if that makes sense. They're not fighting because your closer and your media buyer, or your closer and you as a content creator, cannot be clashing. Once there's clarity, there's no more bickering. But when there's no clarity and there's just finger pointing, that's when teams fall apart, and that's when your offer just loses momentum. All right, C, cold, trash, broke versus uneducated. This is most likely your problem. Uneducated is like the problem for 99% of you. I'm going to give you action items right now on how to solve this like for good, okay? Uneducated means that the lead just doesn't have enough information, or what we like to call buying information, to make a decision on the call. It means that you're not really getting no's, and you also have no chance of getting yeses. So what I mean by that is someone hops on the call, hey, this is great, and it just doesn't buy. It's not that you're getting a no, it's that you're getting that they don't have enough really context to make a decision outside of that salesperson. And when the salesperson is doing a lot of the walkthrough, right, they lose trust because that person, whenever they go buy something, they usually have all the information beforehand, and the salesperson is just a salesperson. So you shouldn't be having educators on your calls, you should be having salespeople. And that's what most salespeople cannot communicate. They communicate broke, cold, trash. But what they really mean is these guys don't have enough resources, haven't been educated enough on the offer to make a buying decision. It's not that they're getting no's, it's they're not getting any decision at all. All right, so how do we fix that? Let's get to action items, right? So first of all, identification. Like you need to do this work before anything. I talked to all my offers. Most people get sold on this next shiny bottleneck in their business, when in reality, it's just a clarity problem, right? So understanding where is the bottleneck and where is like the communication, how do you keep each other accountable as a leadership team? What are you holding people accountable to in your business? In my own business, I have KPIs that I attach to certain team members that are responsible for those KPIs. And so we know where everything's coming from, what problems and what the good things are coming from places, right? So that's your main problem. Figure this out first, identification. Second, targeted pre-call education. So like I said, most of you probably have an education problem. And that means you don't have an FAQ built out so that everyone that comes to these calls doesn't have answers to the questions that are really just sitting in the back of their head before that call. And the cool thing is, if you answer those questions before the call ends up being a lot more shinier and a lot more people to show up with higher intent. So for example, here's the page I built out for a client just recently, right? You're a few steps from doubling your income as a barber, being the number one barber in your area. We have this 90-second video that frames the rest of this post-booking page. We have a full overview of the offer that addresses limiting beliefs, addresses FAQs, and is the ultimate nurturing asset in the business. If anyone watches this video before their call, they have complete knowledge on the offer, the customer journey, all objections are faced, all limiting beliefs are faced. And again, if you want this like blueprint, DM me on Instagram. I'm happy to share like how we write this. I'm not here to gatekeep anything. But we literally walk them through average client timeline, the entirety of like the opportunity in their market, in their niche, for them to go and like convince them to take action, right? So this long form action nurturing video, whoop, dude, we went full screen there. Anyways, even below that, we have FAQ questions, right? Like, what if I'm too busy? We answer the most commonly asked questions. What if it doesn't work? What if I'm stuck at the same level, right? All these things, and again, don't take this and copy this. This is literally work we did in research on the back end of these sales calls to get the most effective information and like assets here for these people. Okay, then we have their confirmation of the call, and then there's case studies, right? But when they show up to that call, they have all the information on the offer. They've been walked through any of their FAQs, which we have data across all sales calls that they can get answered. And the cool thing about those FAQs is they make the call a lot more shinier. For example, if you're running a BizOp offer, let's just say for SMMA, or like I think the thing is brand scaling now, right? And so maybe a customer doesn't know that they don't have to pay for the ads out of pocket, that the client pays for the ads. And so now when they show up to the call, they book their call and they're like, oh, shit, like I don't have enough money to pay for ads. I don't have money to start this business. Like I can't show up to the call. I'm not going to pay. I'm not going to show up to the call. I'm not going to like take that sales call. Now, what if you had an FAQ as soon as they book the call that says, hey, you don't need any money to start a service-based business. This is purely for a beginner who's looking to build a skill set. So it's perfect for you. Now it's like, oh my gosh, perfect opportunity for me. Let me show up to this call. right? So you need to start building those assets out. And again, the cool thing is once you build these assets, they serve you for a lifetime. They literally serve you for a lifetime. You can arm your setters with these like assets, and they can leverage them in their actual conversations, pre-call, post-call, for follow-ups. They serve you. They serve you well. All right, the remarkable is getting pretty messy here. But anyways, to move on to that, automated versus manual SOP. Now, let robots be robots. I had a mentor, Paul Daly. I'm not sure if I can say his name, but I'm just going to say it anyways. The absolute, go check his channel. He's on YouTube. Way bigger, way better information. Go check it out. But let robots be robots. And also, in the same conversation, what he told me about pre-call, which has influenced my entire outlook on this entire industry, one, but two, like that specific part of the book to show process machine, I'd say, is pre-call conversations work better than pre-call confirmations. And so I'll explain what that means. But first of all, pre-call conversations over confirmations. So let robots be robots. When you get a text from Calendly that says like, I'm excited for your call at 4 p.m. GMT -2, like not a person. But the problem is that most people try to automate these messages to sound like they're a real person, right? When any team, I tell to stray away from that. There's a reason the biggest teams in the world don't do that. They literally have their manual setters reach out manually to every single lead because it's that valuable. It makes that big of a difference. And so text from a setter should look something like, hey, excited for your call tomorrow morning. Notice how I said morning and I didn't say a time because a human doesn't type 12 p.m. PST. A human types either it's morning or evening. Excited for your call tomorrow morning. Anything I can help with between now and then, I'm here for you. Let me know how I can help. Give them a quick call. Send them a targeted actual client interview that sounds, looks, and is in the same situation as the prospect before their call. So now, whenever someone books a call on any of my clients' calendars, 3 things happen, right? 1, they get a triage immediately. That setter or that closer, if you have a DM setter and not a triage setter, the closer will call. But someone's contacting that lead on a triage call to confirm and build a gap between where that person is and where that person isn't and where wants to go, so that call seems a lot more shinier, right? At the same time, they go to that, I guess, actually this triage happens after this post-booking link. So we have post-book page. Actually, I'm writing this completely wrong. It's all good. We're going to go like this. Post-book. Let's just say we have a post-book page. All right, then they get a triage call. From that triage call, the setter has a very simple SOP. He needs to send them, hold them accountable to watching every resource on this page, at least at minimum that pre-call VSL, that longer form one in the middle, because it has every information. We need our magic bullet. And then also sends them a hyper-relevant case study that is just like them based off the client archetype. If you don't know, last video talked about client archetypes. Make sure you have those in your ICP because every ICP has like subsections and sub niches within. But a case study that falls in that exact person's situation. So by this point, they've already had the post-booking page, which nurtures them with all the information they need. The setter holds them accountable to watching that one longer form pre-call VSL, has a conversation, builds gap between where they are, where they aren't, where they want to go, sends them a personal case study after the conversation, which validates them being more personalized, gives them information for the closer. At the same time, emails are being fired off. Non-CTA emails that are built around the FAQs and limiting beliefs that I have placed on the actual post-booking page. So these emails or these videos, not only one, serve the prospect, but it serves us because we shoot emails that are non-CTA, just value-based, around those specific topics for that person. So now we have emails firing off, douche, douche, douche. Hopefully that's being seen. Yeah, it's right above my webcam. It's good. So now we have all these processes hitting off. So by the time they get to that call, they have had a conversation with the team member. They've had a hyper-relevant case study that the team member has based on their conversation, right? They've watched a long-form pre-call VSL, like long-form VSL, and they're getting emails on limiting beliefs, This is how in-depth the education process is for every single one of my portfolio clients. And even consulting clients, I tell them to do the exact same thing. So next time your sales team is talking about broke, cold, or trash, it's probably because one of these three problems, but most likely it's probably because of this problem, right? So it's going to be because of one of these three, and you not knowing is costing you money. But just know that if you don't have this as a bare minimum, the system on the right, or at least something that's educating these people before their call on the offer, on limiting beliefs, on their perceived problems, this is why you think you have a broke, cold, trash lead problem, but really you're just a couple tweaks away from collecting PIFs, painfuls daily, right? It's not that they're saying no, they don't have enough context to say yes, okay? Hope that helped. I'm gonna cut this video off, that way it's not super, super long, but appreciate your time. If you have any questions, let me know on Instagram. If you want any scripts, like on that pre-call page, post-booking page, text me on Instagram. I'll shoot them over. I'm not gonna gatekeep anything.